everybody. So I'm really looking forward to getting some feedback from this interview. It was great to do. I felt very edified after talking with Dory, who's a podcaster friend of ours. And so I hope you enjoy it. We had some static in the recording that I couldn't 100% get rid of. And I'm sorry about that. But hopefully you can still hear us enough and that it's clear enough that you can get the important discussions that we had and to get something out of it, and you can be part of the conversation. So sorry about that, but look forward to your feedback. Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. We're really excited today. I love it when I get a chance to interview one of my fellow podcasters, especially Lady Pod Squad. And we're really excited to have Dory Benford here from the All the Feels podcast. And Dory, you've been on a number of times. This is your first interview, so this is pretty exciting.
I know. I can't wait. I always love chatting with you. So this will be a fun episode to add to our arsenal of money.
We have like our portfolio. You can get we'll sell the box set in the merch store.
The compilation.
Yeah.
I love it.
Greatest hits.
I love it.
So for people that don't know, why don't you introduce yourself and people might not know of your ethnicity or background because we are a podcast and so people don't see you.
Right.
And that's part of the reason why I wanted to have you on is to have your voice and so why don't you introduce yourself a little bit to our listeners?
Sure. Well, I'm Dory and I host a fellow Hallmark podcast called All the Feels with two other co-hosts, Mel and Erica. And we are all based in Los Angeles and we all met working at a TV production company together. So we are all kind of in and around the TV industry, which is very LA. But I actually grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. So I'm from the Midwest. And, I think that it's been a really interesting space for me to podcast in because I am a Black woman, reviewing Hallmark movies, which are largely not Black at all, not diverse at all. So it's a very unique and interesting space, but I still love the movies. My mother loved Hallmark movies. She was the one who got me into them. So, and if anyone here has listened to All the Feels, you know that a lot of times we really struggle with wanting Hallmark to do better and be more diverse. And so on our podcast, we talk about these issues a lot. Mm-hmm. And we will continue to.
Yeah, I think it's great. I really do. So did Mel bring up the idea of doing a podcast, or was it kind of a group idea, or how did it all happen?
It was absolutely Mel's idea. So when we were working together, we used to do a Hallmark movie bracket, also Mel's idea, every year on the holidays, where we would just pit movies against each other. And then she and I would just like talk at work about which movie we liked best, which movie we thought should win the bracket. And it was totally just something for us that we did for fun because we loved Hallmark and we were working at a really crazy job. And we needed that outlet of like Christmas joy and Christmas cheer to kind of alleviate a lot of the stress we were feeling. So we did the bracket, I want to say for like 2 years or something. And Erica joined us as well. And then finally Mel said, we should make this a podcast. It would be really funny. So the two of us, Mel and I, started this podcast, had no idea what we were doing. We were truly reading blog articles like, how do you start a podcast? What is a microphone? Like, we were not equipped at all to do this.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, but we just did it. Like, we just learned and we just did it for ourselves. And then we're shocked to find out that people actually listened to us. And we are still surprised that people listen to us.
Yeah, you guys were about, I think, 6 months about before us. I think you started the Christmas before us, and we started in the summer. And I remember, I've never told you this, but when we were first starting, I would listen to you guys, and I would say, I had a nickname for you. I called you guys the Snarky Girls.
Well, you know what? That is correct. There is no lack of snarkiness.
Yeah.
Especially where me and Mal are concerned. Yeah. Absolutely.
I really, really enjoyed it. And yeah, because you guys were able to cover the Christmas before us. So it was nice to have that as sort of a guide of somebody, once we went into the Christmas season, our first Christmas season, which was 2017, you guys had done 2016. So, yeah.
Yeah, because when we started, we looked around and there really weren't other Hallmark movie specific podcasts. There were some TV movie podcasts, like some that covered Lifetime and Hallmark movies, and other made for TV movies, but not specifically Hallmark.
Yeah, when we first started, there was just you guys, and then AfterBuzz had a show on When Calls the Heart and on the Christmas movies, but yeah, it was just us, and then now it's become this.
I know thing. We were pioneers.
Yeah, I
know. And now look how things have boomed. Now there are tons of podcasts, and I think it's great.
I do too.
The more the merrier. I think it's great.
Yeah,
because everyone has a different perspective, and I think that our podcast, we have no sponsors. We are not authorized in any way, shape, or form. So the blessing of that is we can say whatever we want, and we absolutely do at all times.
Yeah. I appreciate that too. It's nice to have one place because we frankly don't have that ability. It's nice that I feel like there's one space in this world that doesn't have to, that can be that open, that can be that, in our podcast, there's also 8 or 9 of us depending on the time that, you kind of have to work to get a unified message with all of us, and that can be a challenge. But it's nice to have one spot where it's that you guys can, I feel like, kind of I don't feel like it absolves us, and so that's why I try to do what we can, but it's nice to have one spot where I know that you guys are going to be awesome.
Unfiltered. It always makes us laugh because we did a podcast once. Me and Mel came on to Hallmarkies, and Rachel started the episode with an apology for being she was like, I know I've been getting some feedback been too negative, and I'm really sorry about that. And me and Mel are on mute looking at each other like, well, we are the wrong people to have on tonight. If she's been getting
we had just gotten 2-3 reviews on iTunes that week saying, do they even like Hallmark movies at all? And I'm like, I'm sorry.
I know.
It's so stressful, and there's so many there during Christmas, and you're not gonna like all of them. And I mean, and I pride myself that we keep it real, that we're not a gush podcast. We're not just gonna say if we like it, if we don't like it. And usually I feel like there's one of us that likes it. I feel like it's pretty rare. In fact, I kind of hate it when I have an episode where there's only 1 or 2 movies and both of them I don't like. Like, for instance, this last Valentine's, I really didn't like the first 2 movies that they aired. The third one was okay. And then I was just praying that the 4th movie I would like. Because I hate having an episode where I don't like all of the movies.
Yeah.
And so I'll try to get somebody on that episode that likes them, that can be a counter, so that I'm not. And it's part of the reason why I haven't been covering the television shows as much, except for Good Witch, because I'm not as big a fan of them.
Yeah.
And so we finally made it work, so I didn't have to do it.
Yeah.
And it's been
don't get her started. Don't get her started. Chesapeake Shores. Don't get her going.
But yeah, so I've been trying to, it was just a necessity. I was the only one. I had to cover it. I was the one that needed to do it. But now we're made it work, so I don't have to. So it's everyone wins.
Everyone wins, because you were not winning when you had to cover
it. Yeah, so I don't know. It's an interesting thing. You try to get that balance of being real, but also being, you have to know who your audience is too, a little bit. And so, that's a challenging thing about podcasting. And yeah, and then when you throw in sponsorships, when you throw in other things into the mix, multiple personalities, trying to all balance, it's a challenging thing, but I think we do a really good job, and I'm really proud. And I was really proud of our statement that we made for the Blackout Tuesday. We put a ton of prayer and ton of thought into it about what we said, and it wasn't something we did just to gain sort of social media points. Like, we really put a lot of thought into it. And so I wanted to have you on because I feel like you, as a dynamic Black woman podcaster in the Hallmark space, like, you have, not that you are like representing all Black Hallmark viewers, I don't want you to feel that way, but I feel like you have an important voice and need to be part of this conversation. And so I guess, first of all, let me ask you, how have you felt about all of this, with everything that's happened since George Floyd and the protests, and how have you, because that's what actually matters. Hallmark movies don't matter, but how have you digested all of that? How have you did you go to the protests? How have you, what is your involvement? What is your thoughts on that? All of that.
Well, I think it has been a really emotionally draining couple weeks.
Yeah.
I think that this kind of goes back to at least in recent memory, this kind of goes back to the Ahmaud Arbery case, where he was, shot on camera. So, and this was just uncovered a couple months ago. So that had just been in recent memory for a lot of people. So then to see the George Floyd video come out, and on top of that, we are all in the midst of a pandemic. Everyone is home. Everyone is paying attention. It just felt like a lot of tensions boiling over, and a lot of frustration and anger and pain. And I think that is the overriding feeling that I think so many of us are feeling right now. Like, this is a major pain point.
Yeah.
Not just for Black people, for everyone, because everyone has is experiencing a different type of pain right now. And so it has been an incredibly emotionally draining couple of weeks. Just, I mean, to see anyone killed is not great, like, that doesn't make any of us feel great. And if you are Black in particular, it's this exhaustion, because you see this over and over again, and you hear the stories over and over again. But I would like to say that in the midst of all that pain, I have also felt hopeful at the end of the day, because I think that I am seeing a lot of people who are waking up and having their eyes opened and becoming more vocal about Black lives mattering. And it is really inspiring to see. So I'm kind of towing the line, and you know, we have talked about this, you and I, about just during the pandemic, I have been all over the place. Every hour, a different emotion. And
Yeah.
I feel similarly right now with what's going on. I feel similarly. I'm kind of all over the place, sad, hopeful, angry, tired. For my part, what I have been doing is I've been sharing a lot of resources on social media. I think I'm really lucky. I have kind of a wide variety of diverse friends from all points in my life. And I've really been wanting to share information because everyone seems so receptive. So I've been sharing as much as I can that resonates with me. I have not been to the protests in LA just because, quite frankly, I am still not leaving my house unless I have to. And I am still, as an anxious person, I am keeping to my home because that's the other thing that's going on. Like a pandemic is still raging, you know, like
especially in LA.
Especially in LA. And my support, my heart are with everyone who is marching in the streets. I think it is so important. It is vital. It is crucial. And that work is so important. And I have been donating money to causes that mean a lot to me. And I've been trying to be very vocal. And that's why for our podcast, we had to say something. Mm-hmm. You know, I let it sit for a week because I was feeling very overwhelmed and I couldn't sort through my own emotions. And I wanted to wait for a beat. So we waited for about a week. And after a week, I said, you know, Hallmark Twitter is my safe place. Like, this is where I go to pretend like all of the bad things happening in the world aren't happening.
Yeah. But
this was an exception. This story had bled over to Hallmark Twitter. There was no part of our lives that was not touched by this story. And so we felt it was really important to let people know where we stood, but to also give resources. Like, I'm always trying to share resources with people. Like, these are the organizations that we donated to and researched that we think are helping to make the world a better place. Like, consider it. You don't have to donate to, but like, read about it, expand your mind, expand your worldview. And so we put out a statement, and we all just unequivocally saying that Black Lives Matter. And then we discussed different charities that we were donating to as a group to support.
And so when I was first looking at it, I was like, I want to make sure that this is something, like, I don't want to get caught up in a movement and support something that I don't believe. Right. And so I looked into it, and I really feel like I was really impressed with what I saw from groups like the NAACP, that it really was looking for practical solutions to stopping this horrible, horrendous tragedies from happening. Right. Like, I didn't feel like this was it is political because everything is political.
Exactly.
But I didn't feel like it was political in the sense that I was going to be supporting candidates and issues that were sort of tagged on to this issue.
Right.
If that makes sense. And so I was really impressed because I felt like they were actually giving real concrete solutions of things that, I mean, I'm not a police officer or know anybody who's a police officer. So I can't tell you that the things that they're suggesting are right or whatever. But it sounded like at the very least that, like, they can't wait for 8 or whatever. It sounded like at least this is a jumping off point. These are concrete suggestions. These are specific things that we can do that can stop this from happening, because that's the most important thing to me.
Right.
We need to stop police officers from killing people. Like, that is ridiculous, awful. Like, I don't know what adjectives to use, but It's horrible. And I mean, you cannot watch that video of George Floyd saying, I can't breathe without, I don't know how you can't watch that without wanting to do something and being angry.
Right.
And so that's what I was relieved, I think, to see that it felt like this is something that is in a way sort of superseding politics and really getting to the core of these people need to stop doing this.
Right.
And we need to, as a society, say, no, we value these people that, how do I say? We need as a society say we value all human life, including, of course, Black people. And I don't know, that was really important to me to see that I felt like this was being done the right way.
Right.
Is that fair?
I think that's fair. And I think that politics can really skew things, right? Yeah. Because another issue I was seeing just among my Black friends and Black peers was similarly with the Women's March, which I was in support of. I thought it was beautiful to see. But a lot of Black people are asking, well, where are all those pink hats right now? Like, are you out for these marches about Black lives? And I think that, and the point of saying that and bringing that up is that this isn't about right or left. This isn't about Democrat, Republican, conservative, progressive. This is about human life and human beings and people being treated fairly.
Yeah.
And if you are for justice in one area, you have to be for it in all areas. Like that's those are the rules, guys. Get on board.
Yeah.
And so I think that this has been a kind of a galvanizing moment because people are starting to see, like, you know what? Yes, we all need to be fighting for this, not just one group of people. We all need to be fighting to end police brutality because it affects everybody. Like one of the organizations I donated to was a police, the National Police Accountability Project or Program, I think it's called. And they fund lawyers for cases of people who've been victims of police brutality, people who have been murdered by the police. And if you go to their page and see the people they've helped, it's people of all races.
Yeah.
It is people of all different backgrounds. Like, this is affecting us all, and we really need to address it for everybody's sake.
Yeah.
And, I think it's important to remember that. And I think more broadly, it is important to remember that when one group is suffering, when Black people are suffering, we are all suffering. Like this, I hope that people remember that through this.
And I mean, and if we really are trying to be the best kind of, follower of Christ, if we're trying to be to serve the way that he would have us do, which I know many of the listeners are, he doesn't see color. He loves all of us. And so we need to do the same. And it's just really, really important. So I would encourage everybody listening to learn about this situation with George Floyd, why it touched a nerve, why it set off this, and then learn what's happened before. And I would encourage everybody to watch the documentary The 13th, which is by director Ava DuVernay. It's on Netflix. And it really is, I think, very fair. It has people from both sides of the aisle interviewed. It's not, I think it's very fair. But it goes into the prison system and how what we've been doing as far as the police and Black men in particular. And it's really good. I highly recommend people watch it. And you get an idea for what is happening, and we need to be aware and we need to stop it because it's not right.
It is not right. And the 13th is a great pick. I love that documentary. It's also free right now. So no excuse.
Yeah.
Get on your computer and watch. Because I think it sets up important context dating back to right after the Civil War, because none of these problems happened overnight. Like issues of race, issues of police violence, like all of this has such strong historical context that I agree is really important to understand if we are to make change and if we are to move forward. And I think it's also important that we like accept it. Like I know that these are hard topics, and you cannot look away right now. Everyone needs to be coming at this with their eyes open, because it's not going to go away. We can't just hope that things will change. We have to actively be the change, and knowing how we got here is an important part of making change moving forward.
Yeah. So we'll put a bunch of resources in the description notes for everybody to learn more, and so we can stop this from happening, and we can all speak out in our little ways that we have, even if it's just with our own families. That's very powerful. And so kind of turning over to talk about sort of Hallmark in all of this is, so as you said, it's primarily has made movies with white, Caucasian leading actors. And so some people have said, oh, it doesn't really, it doesn't matter, or here they've been adding some, or why do you think it matters that we have this representation in a Hallmark, or in just in movies in general? Because to be honest, Hallmark's not that much worse than the rest of Hollywood. Hollywood is in general very bad at this. And I mean, look at the last Oscars. We had one actor of color nominated, and it was for playing a slave. So we're still not doing that great. But Hallmark is a step below even that. And so why do you think that matters? Why do we care? So how do you feel about that?
Well, you and I have talked about this a little bit. Well, not a little bit. We've talked about this at length before. And I think that just from a simple state of fairness, there need to be Black people on Hallmark. Like, you need to show. I often think of Hallmark similarly to like romance novels and women's fiction, and that like it is about the happily ever after. That's why we're here, right? And when you are only showing or mostly showing white couples finding their happily ever after, what you are saying to people who don't look like that is that you don't deserve that happily ever after. And I think that we need to reject that flat out, because it's not true and it's not fair. I also think that a diversity of actors and directors and writers and storytellers is needed for better stories.
Yeah.
I think we have run out, quite frankly, in a lot of instances with Hallmark movies. It is, we see this every season, that these movies are getting less and less interesting to us, more and more similar. And if you have more diverse people at the table, you have more diverse stories. Yeah. And I have never understood why Hallmark has not leaned into that, because they need it. And I also think that there are plenty of people of color who have been side characters, who have been best friends, who have been confidants, who have been bosses on the movies. Give them their chance, because they're also people who the Hallmark audience connects to. Mm-hmm. It is unconscionable that at this point Hallmark has not made a concerted effort to put more Black people on screen on their network, especially, and this is my sticking point, They say it all the time. They say all the time, we are committed to diversity. We are committed to telling diverse stories. They've been saying it for years.
Yeah.
And the numbers tell a different story. So my main sticking point is, if you're going to say that you're doing it and that you're committed to it, I would like to see that commitment instead of you just saying that you're committed.
Yeah, because they actually, this last Christmas, had less movies with people of color than they had in 2018. In 2018, they had 5. In this last season, 2019, they had 3. And Lifetime has been doing much better with 35% of their films have people of color. And it doesn't seem to have hurt the stories at all. No. If anything, it's helped them, like you said, because you just think about it. If you have people of color, you have all these new traditions, you have new festivals, you have new traditions, cultures, and so it's, to me, it's like it's a win-win,
right?
You know, I mean, it's the same thing that if they were to all of a sudden do a story about, if they did a story about my culture, which I'm a Latter-day Saint, I'm a Mormon. You have all the Mormon stories that you could tell. I'm not saying they're going to do that. I'm just saying, as an example, every culture, every group has their own traditions, their own stories, their own language, their own everything. And if you tell that story, then that's more stories that you can tell. It's more traditions that you can use. It's more, and it's just, I don't know. I just feel like it just seems like a win-win situation. I don't understand what any kind of possible downside is.
I agree completely. And I've never understood why they have not cornered the market in this.
Yeah. Like if you wanted to have a movie about, I don't know, if you're going to have a Jewish story, you could have a Catholic story. You could have just every culture, every group has their own traditions and their own stories, especially at Christmas. And so if it's well written, then I think that I don't know. It's hard to understand. I wish we could get some kind of answer from them of why it's taken so long and why they haven't. Because you're right, they do peddle out that PR line of, oh, we're committed
every
to
year
diversity, and then the few stories that they have are usually like for instance, Christmas Everlasting had a African American cast, but it was based on a book about white people.
Yep.
And it was not there in its bones is not an African American story,
right?
With African American traditions and legacy, and that kind of a thing, and so it just kind of, I mean, I like that movie fine, but it doesn't really help. I don't think them with diversity as much as maybe they think it does, and even then, it's still just a drop in the bucket. Like, why? I would like to hear from somebody, what's the argument against doing it? It just seems to make sense. You're going to have better movies.
I know. And we've also talked about this too, with a lot of the movies that Hallmark puts out and touts as, having diverse leads, people of color, Black people. The movies don't resonate as much and aren't as well done a lot of times because they just take a story that was previously envisioned for 2 white characters. They just try and place 2 Black characters in that story, and it doesn't feel as authentic. This is about more than Black actors. This is about hiring Black writers and directors to authenticate and bring more depth to the experiences that we see on screen. And so you and I have talked about, it's like, diversity to what end? Like, the diversity that you've given us has been so unsatisfying, and that's the other part of this. Put some money behind these movies featuring Black people and people of color. Really pull out all the stops. Give them the real snow. Like, do it up. Make it like this is a CCB movie. And that's what we want to see, because we want to see it well done, because when you do these kind of attempts that are lackluster at best, everyone just comes away feeling disappointed. Everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's not helpful. In Christmas Everlasting, Patti LaBelle is advertised as being this big player. She's on the poster. She literally opened a door. That was her whole role.
That's it.
She opened the door and said, "Welcome to my house."
That's it.
That's it. And at least that movie was a Hallmark Hall of Fame, so it had some gravitas to it. But I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. I just feel like, why not tell more stories? Why not have more people? Why not have more talent? Why not open yourself up to more of an audience? It just, in every business decision, even if I'm looking at it very non-emotion, I'm trying to take that emotion out of it.
Dollars and cents. Yeah.
It just makes sense.
Right.
Why not tell more stories so you can have more people watch your movies?
Right. And it's fascinating to me that they have not poached somebody at Netflix to get this started.
Yeah.
And, I think that other networks, other streaming services are gaining on them when they really could have cornered this market. Because the thing that I talk about a lot on the podcast is we complain and moan and talk about Hallmark and lodge all of our issues because we love it.
Yeah.
And I think there's something special that Hallmark can do. And to see them willfully ignore entire communities in our country is very hard to sit with, because they have so much potential to make these beautifully done, sweet, happy love stories. And, I think that when we look at some recent shows that have come out on Netflix, right? Like Virgin River, like Sweet Magnolias, I start to see other networks and streaming services doing it better, and Hallmark is falling behind. You look at a show like Sweet Magnolias and it is diversity out the wazoo and great storytelling and beautifully shot. That could be Hallmark. Like, that should be a Hallmark show. And the fact that it's not, and they even lean into the faith aspect more than any Hallmark movie I've seen in a long time. They are in church in that show more than I've seen in any Hallmark movie in a long time. They are praying. They are talking to their pastor more than any Hallmark movie I've seen in years. And the show managed to do all of that. Faith, diversity, race, sexuality, love stories. They did all of it. And Hallmark is falling behind. That could have been them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and this is not just about having more Black voices in Hallmark. We're talking about, we want to see Asian voices. We want to see all different types. Why not? I just don't understand. I love hearing about other people's culture. I think it's great. And I just like we did a pitch session where it was kind of a game where we did different pitches, and one of mine was to do a Chinese New Year's movie.
Yes.
How fun would that? That would be so fun. There's all different kinds of traditions and festivals and parades and all that stuff that goes with it, and food, and you could have all of the tropes that we love, because we love the tropes, but it would feel new and fresh.
Exactly.
And it would give a chance for actors like Cardi Wong or Lara Miotta or some of these other ones that we love to get a chance to lead in a movie. And it would be great. I would love it so much. I would be
on
so
all
happy.
levels. On all levels, a Chinese New Year movie would knock it out of the park. The visuals alone, like, it is beautiful. If you go down, I am so lucky. I live in Los Angeles. We have a great Chinese community that does it up for Chinese New Year. And it is so beautiful. And it's everything we love in Hallmark, right? It's parades. It's dances. It's like cultural festivals.
Yeah.
It is celebrating a holiday. It is celebrating, you know, a fresh start, a new year, things that we love.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much that can be done. And at this point, I think what's frustrating to me and you is that it's like they are purposely avoiding this because it is in their face. And I have to say, I have been so heartened by Hallmark Twitter's response to Hallmark's lackluster statement that they put out about diversity. Like, people came from all corners and were like, you guys cannot be serious with this statement. It was amazing to see.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, you got to be kidding us with this. Like, we want to see some action.
Yeah, it was pretty much just the same statement that Disney had put out,
Yep.
but less good.
Yep.
And when your PR is less good than Disney, that's not good. That's not good. But I made a list of, I mean, obviously I am a white lady in the suburbs, so what do I know? But I am a film critic. I've seen a lot of movies. So I made kind of two lists. First is a list of films that I think you should see if you want an idea of the Black experience and that aren't Hallmarky style, right? Okay. So I'm just going to list them. If you have seen any of them and you want to talk about them, we can, or we can just move on. But here's my list, and I'll put this in the description. So I have Moonlight, Fruitvale Station, Hoop Dreams, Step, Blindspotting, The Hate U Give, Selma, Just Wright. I guess that's kind of Hallmarky. Blackkklansman, Malcom X, Get Out, Us. And okay, so that's my regular list that everybody should be watching these films. Some of them are R-rated.
Yeah.
So we'll proceed with caution, I guess, in that way. But what about you? Do you have any that you particularly like that you recommend and that you think maybe help people to understand these protests a little bit more, maybe help understand the situation?
I do. Some formative movies for me growing up have been Do the Right Thing and Boyz in the Hood.
I need to see those. I haven't seen them. Embarrassing.
Both are excellent, and when I say they are formative, I saw them when I was younger and they have stayed with me my entire life. I think that they are really important films and just iconic. They are iconic films that I could not recommend more. And I mean, Do the Right Thing is like the height of Spike Lee. Like, if you want to see a Spike Lee joint, that's the one.
Yeah. And he has a new one coming out this week.
He does. Actually. Coming out soon.
New film. I particularly, out of the ones I listed, particularly Fruitvale Station and Blindspotting, I would particularly recommend, and The Hate U Give. If you want one that's more for families, The Hate U Give is very well done, I think.
Yes.
They did such a good job casting that film and really making it feel like this is a family, and being very showing just every side to this, and what happens when this horrific tragedy, this murder happens, and the girl is there, and how she kind of showing her path to getting to the protest at the end. And it's really, really well done. Very, very good. I loved the book, and I thought the movie was excellent.
I was going to say the book is great too. And, you know, when I think of more recent movies that have really struck a chord with me, The Hate U Give is definitely on that list. Fruitvale Station as well.
Yeah.
Especially Fruitvale. Like, I saw that, I was in my 20s. Like, it felt, living in California, it just felt so real and all encompassing to me. I love Get Out more than I can ever express. I saw it in the theater.
So good.
In South LA, and it was maybe the best collective movie viewing experience I've ever had in my life, because none of us knew what we were in for, and it was amazing.
Yeah. When there's the auction, I was just like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
because leading up to that, you're like, no, it couldn't be. This isn't what I think it's gonna be. And it is exactly your worst nightmare on screen.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. And I also would recommend Moonlight, which I love, which is just beautiful.
Yeah.
It is such a beautiful story. It is shot beautifully. I loved that movie. I was mesmerized by that movie. And I would also add If Beale Street Could Talk, which came out last year, or maybe 2 years ago at this point. That is similar to Moonlight to me, and that it just kind of, the way the colors used, and it's one of those movies that just wraps you up in it. And I think that the important thing with like Moonlight and If Beale Street Could Talk is that they don't necessarily like, it's not about like social justice, right? It is about a piece of the Black experience, a small story, but that has universal appeal and that makes you think, makes your heart ache.
Yeah.
They're
it's about getting a chance. The greatness that film can do is film can be escapism, but film can also be a machine. Roger Ebert said it was a machine for generating empathy.
Yeah.
And what he meant by that is that I probably will never meet anybody like, I think it's Sharon, I think is his name in Moonlight. I'm never going to meet anybody like that probably, because I live in Utah and he's in Florida, and just we're worlds away. I probably won't, but I can watch this movie and I can walk in his shoes for a couple of hours and I can understand more about his experience. And that's what makes it so powerful, so important. And I completely agree. And there's lots of really good documentaries that are out there about these topics. We've said the 13th. Hoop Dreams was a really formative movie for me, about two boys in I think it's Chicago area that are it's about two boys who are picked as prospects for the NBA in junior high, and sort of then the director then follows them for 7 years. Mm-hmm. And it's really about their families and about their journeys. It's not really about basketball. And it really changed. I saw it when I was in high school and I had certain ideas of like people in the city or whatever, like, and it really changed my view to realize that just to see these people and to experience that with them was really meaningful to me. And so I love that film. I also loved the documentary Step. I saw it at Sundance in 2018, I think. Yeah, I can't remember. But anyway, I loved it. It's about this step dance team in Baltimore and how they're able to all get to college and their experiences together, and it follows them for the school year. And I thought it was really, really inspirational and great. There's a lot of really good ones. As far as like Hallmark type movies, I actually have a pretty long list. So I have Just Right. I have Something New. I have Last Holiday, This Christmas, Almost Christmas, Best Man Holiday, The Preacher's Wife, A Very Vintage Christmas, A Majestic Christmas, Marry Me for Christmas, Christmas Everlasting, Coins for Christmas, which is underrated. That one came out on the One Network and has Essence Adkins, and she's really good. And it's a small budget, but I really enjoyed it. And then Dear Santa, I Need a Date was a surprise hit last year in my book. I thought it was very funny. I enjoyed it, even with Ray J in it. The Christmas Duet, Ghosting the Spirit of Christmas, was one on ABC Family last year that had lots of representation in there. Christmas Winter Song that has Shantae last year on Lifetime, and I thought it was very sweet. Merry Little Christmas, you liked. I hated it, but you liked it, so I put it on the
Watch it. Don't listen to Rachel. It's so good. It's so good. Don't listen to her.
So Carole's Christmas, which was on OWN Network, they did 3 movies last year, but really The only one I'd recommend is Carol's Christmas. And then one on Lifetime in 2018 that I actually quite enjoyed, Every Day is Christmas with Toni Braxton. It was a Christmas Carol version that I thought had a lot of heart and was really good. So there are those movies out there, but very few of those that I listed are actually from Hallmark. There's like 2, I think.
Yep. And therein lies the problem.
Yeah.
But I wanted to add a couple more movies because you got me thinking. Documentary. I actually have a dance documentary on my list as well. It's called Rise.
Oh.
And this is about the dance style crumping, which has made its way into mainstream hip hop dancing since its inception. And it's really interesting because it takes place, it kind of shows how crumping became a dance style, and it came out of the 1992 riots in LA. It is a very LA centric dance, and so it's David LaChapelle directed it, so it just looks like crazy and amazing. So I would recommend that, and I would also recommend I Am Not Your Negro, which I saw, I guess, last winter when it came out, about James Baldwin. And I really think it's important to bring up James Baldwin because I can't think of another writer. I mean, I can think of many, but he is maybe my favorite writer to write about the Black experience. So if you're looking for someone to learn more about and read more about, it's him. His books, his writing is incredible. And then this documentary is narrated by Samuel L. Jackson about a book that he never finished because he died. And it kind of imagines what that book would be about, what that book would discuss, because James Baldwin had friendships with Martin Luther King, with Malcolm X, with Medgar Evers. And it's like he watched these giants of the civil rights movement die before he did, and they were his friends. And so he has a very interesting perspective and take kind of on their lives and what they meant to American culture and also Black culture. It's a really great documentary. It's also short. It's an hour and a half. I know movies are long these days, guys. This one's like an hour and a half. You're in, you're out. It's great.
Do you happen to know if that's streaming?
It is streaming, yeah.
Yeah. Is it on Netflix? Do you know? Or
I think it's on Netflix. I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix.
Look
but
it
I
up.
recommend that.
Sure.
I recommend that highly. So those are 2 other great documentaries. But I have a couple other really formative movies for me that I love and make me happy, and they are comedies, and I watch them every time they're on TV. The first one is Friday with Chris Tucker and Ice Cube. It never gets old. I love that movie. Few movies make me laugh harder. And my favorite movie from my childhood, House Party. Everyone needs to see House Party with Kid and Play. It is about exactly what the title is, a house party. I love the clothes. It is so freaking funny. I love the clothes. I love the movie or the music. I love the dancing. I love the comedy. It's just so fun. It is a very light, but also, I think, very sweet and poignant movie. So please check those out.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of those, so I've got some work to do.
Rachel,
I got some work to do.
You have to see House Party. It makes me so happy. Every time it's on Comedy Central, I watch it.
Yeah. Hey, I have to ask, did you watch Green Book?
I did not watch Green Book. I read about Green Book, and I read that it was something that I probably should not watch.
I did, but I'm a white person from Utah. I did not think of it the same way that I probably should have. I don't know. To me, it was an unlikely friendship, and the acting was so good, and I thought it was very sweet. But again, I'm not I probably I don't know. After because I saw it early at a screening, and then other people got to see it, and I was like, oh, I guess I can see that perspective. I just didn't think of it that way. Need to stop the killing of young men, period. That needs to stop. Like, the discussion is really good, but I don't know. There's a certain point where it's like, yes, we need to do that. And then we also need to stop.
Right. And we're like, and back to the main point that I'm trying to get at. Let's stop the murders.
Yes.
It always comes back to that. But I think that what's interesting about Green Book to me, and I think that what's really important about it is, I think everyone should see it, watch it, and formulate your own opinions, and then read what other thinkers, especially Black thinkers, are saying about it. Because I think that criticism is important in this too. Like, these movies are great, watch the movies, but read the critiques. Read what film critics are saying about them as well, because inevitably in any movie, you're going to have your opinion. And I like a whole lot of problematic stuff. Right. I mean, many people could say that me loving Hallmark this much is problematic. So I will never judge someone for their problematic faves. But read the literature, read the criticism about it as well, because even if you like something, it's great to have your eyes open to someone else's perspective about why they didn't like it, and many times why it offended them.
Right.
And I think that we need that. That's the great thing about film criticism. You pick up things that you missed, and you see perspectives and points of view that you missed, because we all sit and watch movies based on our own lived experience. No person can have the lived experience of every other person.
Right.
And reading about the different takes, you could read negative takes all day long. You still liked Green Book, and that's fine. But now you have a better understanding of why other people didn't like it, felt patronized by it, whatever. So, I would say to watch these movies, but also take it a step further and read the criticisms. They're important.
Yeah. As a film critic, I completely agree with that.
Yep.
Yes. I've always loved film criticism since I was a little girl. And I think you get some of that empathy that Roger was talking about, that the movies are a machine for creating empathy. I think part of that is the conversations that you can have about a film, and so that's something that shouldn't be discouraged. It shouldn't be and I think sometimes, especially in the Hallmark world, we're kind of, because this is like our escape, this is our, that we don't want that supposed negativity, when we really need, it's okay to have our escapes, but we also need to make sure we're doing the other part too.
Right.
And so that's kind of my goal in my hope is that in the podcast we can highlight people, we can highlight talented people of color. We can encourage Hallmark, and we can insist, even we can talk as much as we possible about it, but then we can also seek to entertain and seek to bring some light into people's days, and to try to find that balance. But it's really important to me, and that's why I wanted to have you on, and I wanted to talk about this. And so we'd really like to hear our listeners. We'd like to hear your thoughts about these issues that we've talked about. Please try to be respectful and share with us your thoughts, what you would like Hallmark to do. And we'll have that discussion in the comments section or on Twitter. We would love to hear all of that and start having these conversations. And if any of you have participated in the protest, we want to hear your story. We had Anne, co-host Anne, who was in the one in Nashville, and so we got to hear her story as our little group of co-hosts. And so that was really neat, and we admire her and proud of her for doing that. And so we want to hear your stories. We want to hear what you want in these Hallmark movies. What kind of change? What do we mean to you? Share with us that. I want to hear it. And I hope that this can be a starting out point to have these discussions, like you're saying, because it's important for me. It's important for everybody. And so thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This was really fun. I know it was maybe more serious than our typical typical, talking about mysteries. Talking about the mysteries a lot. And Holly Robinson Pete being a morning show chef, solving crime.
Oh, there will be more of that to come.
Yes.
But I just wanted to thank you for having me, and thank you for not shying away from these topics. I know that it's not always easy, but I see the work that you do, and I appreciate the work that you're doing. And as I keep saying, like, all we can do, like, this is a fight that we have to fight together. And I think that we're united in this, and Hallmark is just a small piece of the pie, but to us it's very important. And so for us, the change will start there.
It's our little spot that hopefully we can try to make a difference, but
we're going to.
It was my pleasure. And if I said anything in an awkward way to talk about these, please be forgiving, please be kind. We're doing our best, and it's a really important topic. So thank you so much, and we'll have you on soon again to do, like I said, something lighter and a little bit more fun. But where can people find your podcast? I know you guys are doing a similar episode.
Yeah, we're gonna record a similar episode. I think that this is the time to bring up all of these issues. Now is the best time to do it. So you can find us at All the Feels Pod on Twitter, All the Feels Pod on Facebook, and we will have a new episode later this week, talking about diversity in Hallmark movies, but also the state of our world and how it connects. Because I think that, it's easy for us to say, like, we just love Hallmark movies and whatever, but it all connects, right? Like all of this, it is, the conversation eventually made it to Hallmark, as we knew that it would. When they put out that statement, we knew that it would end up here. And so everything is connected, and we just want to have a space to discuss some of these issues, and hopefully make you laugh as well, because we're always laughing,
and everyone needs to listen to that for sure. And make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media and iTunes, YouTube. And again, we want to hear your thoughts, so please do that. We really appreciate it. And we have our Patreon group, which is such another place for sharing and for discussion, and we are really grateful for that support. And we're actually having this weekend, we're having our second patron movie watch, where we're going to watch All for Love. The very fun movie with Sarah Rue. And we're going to have director Lee Friedlander and the writer Tracy Ann Doreen. They're going to be on watching it with us, giving their insight. And it's going to be really fun. And so if you've been thinking about becoming a patron, then it's the perfect time now to do that, and so we can watch All for Love together this Saturday, June 13th at 11 a.m. Pacific. So definitely make sure that you have checked that out. All the information will be in the description section. So thanks again, Dory. You're the best, and you can find me at Rachel's Reviews. And read some of my critical analysis if you want.
That's right.
You can read my review of Green Book. Check it out.
Read her criticisms, everybody.
Yes, check it out. And I would really appreciate that. I do weekly family movie nights, and so take a look at that. And thanks so much. And we'll talk to you all later. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.